Jeet Banerjee started his first business in high school and he sold it. At age 25, he now runs several successful businesses, and he tells his story on platforms like TEDx, and he says he can help you become successful too. Now, I do not know Jeet, nor is his appearance here an endorsement of his services, because I'm, like you, curious about how someone can be so successful at such a young age, and I'm wondering exactly how he can help others do the same. So let's find out on this episode of Walking the Walk.
Inspire, empower, and guide people to their very best. These are the people who are walking the walk. Your host, the original Sensei leader, Jim Bouchard.
Jeet, I've got to admit, I'm coming at this from a very skeptical angle. I don't doubt that you've been successful, and I'd like to hear more about that. But it seems there are a lot of people running around promising wealth and happiness through internet marketing of some sort. And I've met a lot of people who trusted these formulas and ended up in ruins. My problem is that many of these people position themselves as leaders. And now the leadership we talk about here centers on compassion, on true service, and placing the needs of others first. So when someone exploits others for their own gain, and now I've met a few of those folks who do just that, that's the opposite of what we're talking about. So my first question for you, my first and my second question, and you can roll, is what makes you different than the rest? And how can you convince me you're the real deal?
Yeah, absolutely. So what really makes me different, and pretty much, so I guess just to give your audience a little bit of background, so I'm pretty much,
yes, please.
I've ran, so right now I'm 25 years old. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've spoken at TEDx and numerous conferences all across the world. And I've also coached and kind of consulted with different business owners and entrepreneurs and kind of jumpstarting their dreams. And in the last 8 years that I've been an entrepreneur, I've launched over 10 plus businesses, some of which have been very successful, some of which have failed epically, and I've been able to launch two businesses, or sell two businesses throughout the process. And for me, my journey really began as a senior in high school. So I was 17 years old when I kind of dove into entrepreneurship. And the biggest thing for me was prior to my senior year of high school, I'd kind of worked a bunch of different jobs between the ages of 15 to 17. And so I worked all these jobs and I just felt very disgruntled, and I kept quitting or getting fired from every single job. And there came to a point.
You were disgruntled when you were 15. And it's funny because, there's a story that just hit today about a couple in New York State who had to sue to get their 30-year-old son the hell out of the house because he didn't even work. So it's amazing that at 15 you were disgruntled. What did you have for jobs at that point?
Yeah, pretty much just any basic minimum job you can think of. So like telemarketing, door-to-door sales, cleaning floors, tutoring. So I did like a variety of jobs like this, like receptionist, answering phones, secretary work, all that good stuff. And I didn't even work too much. It was after school, maybe like 10 to 15 hours a week, something very minimal.
Well, that's much more than average these days.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, and I just felt very frustrated and angry with almost every job, and I'd be quitting or getting fired. And month after month, it was kind of like the same process. And finally, like 2 years of this went by, and my entire plan in life was, hey, I'm going to go to college, get a business degree. And I thought working a 9-to-5 corporate job would be the greatest thing ever. But I wasn't able to hold a job that was only 10 hours a week. So I kind of became very scared. And one day I went on Google and I just went to Google my symptoms because I thought something was wrong with me. So as I go on Google and I try to figure out why I have these feelings and why I can't work a job, I started coming across a lot of videos of like Richard Branson and other entrepreneurs that kind of felt like I kind of related to their feelings when they talked about the fact that they were unemployable and they felt like they were in a prison when they were working jobs and all that kind of stuff. So that's what prompted me at 17 to kind of jump into entrepreneurship. And so that's kind of how my journey really began. And then from there, I never looked back, launched a bunch of businesses, as I mentioned. And then to go back to your other questions, so I think the biggest thing about me and what makes me different, I think, is two things. One is ever since I've kind of gotten started as an entrepreneur, it's been all about creating value. And for me, this is a passion project. So with the Income Incubator, I've had a ton of people that have come up to me after I've achieved success that have emailed me or called me or came up to me in person and they've asked me, how do I start an online business like you? And that's a very difficult question for me to answer in an email or in a 5-minute phone call. It's almost impossible to guide someone or tell somebody. And so what I decided to do was I decided to put together an academy where I've started 7 online businesses in different types of online businesses that have been very, very successful. And I share my blueprints and my guide on how I did it. And that's pretty much what the academy is. And it's not to say that someone can't go out there and be successful in one of those online businesses without my academy. They absolutely can. I think what I do is I just shortcut the process because I've been through it and I know what works, what doesn't work, and what are good angles to take and good resources to follow and things of that nature. And that's pretty much what the academy is. So for me, the first thing is that this is a big time passion project for me. So it's not about about making tons of money or anything like that. To me, I'm a big believer of if I give out value in the world, then money and all the other things are just going to come out. And if I don't create value, then I'm going to get nothing in return. So
that's kind of interesting because, one of the key strategies in our track for aspiring leaders is, first of all, to put experience before material rewards, which is something that a lot of people struggle with, right? And to demonstrate your worth and your value, right, before you insist. I mean, I've got to tell you, we see this in our workshops all the times. I think a lot of the younger generations get a bad rap as far as work ethic. Every generation complains about the next generations coming up, right? Oh, they don't work as hard as we do, blah, blah, blah. And in fact, now I'm hearing it from the millennials and even the Gen Is, right? They say, now we've got younger people coming in and they don't work as hard as we do. But that idea of putting value in front, right? Can you be more specific about that? What do you mean by that? And I'll tell you specifically because the online marketing world really puzzles me, How do people create so much, and it puzzles a lot of folks, right? How do you create this value with something that isn't necessarily a tangible product, right, that you can hold in your hand?
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of what I mean by creating value is like I feel like there's a few different ways that you create value for someone, right? If someone has a problem and you create a solution for it that fulfills that problem, I think that's a value add. And so I think that's kind of like the biggest thing that we do here because what I do with this course and what's very different compared to a lot of other people is there's a lot of inauthentic material and courses out there.
Right.
And that's because a lot of people they take someone else's course. They never operate that business themselves. They go, hey, I think I can sell this. And they just repackage it and then they just push it out there. And when push comes to shove and people start asking them questions and then things get tough, they don't have the answers because they've never been through the process. But for me, it's been like every business that I've started, I've been the CEO, the founder, and I've worked from day one till the very last day through the sweat and the tears and the hard work and all the perseverance. So I know the journey and I know everything that I've been through. And I feel like my course and my academy is 100% authentic because I'm not sharing with you like the hottest business models out there right now because I may not have created those business models, so I cannot speak on them. But the businesses that I can speak on, the businesses that I have been through, those are the ones that I share in this academy and kind of guide others through and lead them through it.
That's interesting too. And as a leader, a lot of times, I'm not saying that somebody can't start near the top. You know what I mean? In some industries, people do that, or they have an academic background that positions them well for a leadership position. Although, we can get into details about that, right? Sometimes they have the management skills, but not necessarily the leadership skills. But, having said that, how important is it? Because you just said, you started these things, you did this from a grassroots level, right? You started these things yourselves, you grew them. Now, how important is it that you stay close? Because now you have employees, right? I read that your first business, you sold it when you had 15 employees. How do you stay close to those people along the way? And is it necessary for a leader, especially a young leader, to be able to demonstrate that you at least have some competency at all levels, right, in order to inspire people?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you're a young leader, especially, and if you're going to employ older people or maybe people that may have more experience or skills in a certain aspect than you do, I think it's extremely key to be able to genuinely show them that you know what you're talking about. And I think if you're not skilled and if you don't know what you're doing, then you're not going to get that respect as a leader from other people. And for me, one of the biggest things was just being very authentic, right? So with my team and my employees, like, look, these are the things that I know how to do. These are things that I'm great at, and I have a vision. Here's my vision. Here's how I can sell you guys on my vision to like buy in, so we can all get to that vision together. But it wasn't like trying to be like all knowing. Like if someone came to me and said that like, hey, like the the budgeting plan that you came up with can be revised a little bit or it can be improved a little bit. It wasn't like shutting people down. It was like, oh, absolutely. Tell me how we can improve it. And I think the biggest thing that I've done as a leader with employees in my team is, one, we keep a very open environment. So we have like group discussions where literally people can bring up anything they want, whether it's a concern, whether it's something that they think can be improved or something that they just want to talk about. And these were some of the limitations I felt like were in the workforce when I was working at the age of 15, for example. Like I'd have a great idea and I'd try to bring it up to the CEO or something and he'd be like, yeah, get out of here, kid. I don't have your time.
Right,
so I've kind of learned from those types of things. And I've realized that the biggest key to maintaining good employees, it's not about like giving them the biggest paycheck or the best hours or anything like that. It honestly just comes to hearing them out and giving them the opportunity to have like an equal voice within the company. And I think that's been one of the biggest things that I do as a leader that's really helped me not only garner their respect, but also keep loyal employees and be able to achieve more with them.
That is one of the most inspirational things you can do, isn't it? To allow people, or empower people, I'd rather say, to to express themselves, right? To do something that they feel is productive and meaningful. But I don't want to leave that idea of leading up yet. That's been a struggle for so many people in our workshops. Especially younger people. They have talent, they have knowledge, and yet they sometimes find themselves in a position where they're managing people who have much more domain experience and knowledge, right? And the question comes up: how do you lead up? Now, we usually say by example. But sometimes you are in that position, right, where you don't have all the knowledge, yet you are still the leader. So how are you specifically crossing that generational gap and encouraging someone who's much older to be attracted, like you said, to that vision that you're sharing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the key is if you truly believe in your vision and your idea and your goals, as a leader, I think the key is to just convey that and to get everybody else to buy into that. I think a lot of the other things that kind of tangibly go with leadership kind of fall in place naturally if you're able to do that. I think it becomes very tough to be a leader when you can't get people to buy into your vision, or you feel like you almost have to force people to buy into your vision. And a lot of times, like with some of the companies and things that I've started, I've had people where I've had an idea and I've gone up to somebody, and like developers, for example, and I've told them like, hey, this is my concept, this is my vision. I really need a developer to help put this into fruition. I don't have cash. And just from them seeing my passion for the project and what I brought to the table, they were like, yeah, sure, I'll pretty much work on this project for free in exchange for equity. They have no guarantee of pay or anything like that. And I think that's when it becomes true leadership, because you've got someone so bought in on your vision that they're willing to literally do it for absolutely no guarantee of a salary or paycheck. So they really believe in you more so than anything else. And I think that's the key, is just like having a very solid vision that you craft and that you kind of pitch and you share with your employees, and you kind of share it down almost like a ladder. It's like a ladder going downwards, and you need to convey that message equally in an equally powerful way to those individuals. And just kind of being able to do that on an ongoing basis. I don't think like leadership and sharing your vision is a one-time thing. I think you have to constantly remind your team and your employees and get them on board and kind of continuously mold that vision within them. It's
a discipline, isn't it? But you said a couple interesting things there. First of all, that idea that you're sharing the vision passionately throughout the different levels. This might be a semantic argument, but let me throw it out there. We'll see where it goes. Because you kept talking about buying in, and that's something that's been challenging me lately. And I don't know. I just kind of came to this conclusion because what you described yourself doing fits perfectly. You're singing in perfect harmony with our definition of a leader, a true leader, who is someone who has the ability to attract willing followers. Right, emphasis on the word willing, and the will to serve them. But along with that is that, like I said, that idea of buying in, and I don't know. Lately, I've just been thinking so much about that. Said if we're trying to get people to buy in, we're probably trying to sell them something they don't really want. So we've been saying, how about asking? And you start asking early and often, right? Getting people involved in the process. Are we kind of on the same page? Is that what you're trying to say with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think it comes down to I think it's kind of like maybe we're like somewhere in between. I'm somewhere in between. I think the biggest thing is like usually when you like human nature almost always is to kind of naturally push away when someone brings something up to you, right? That's just like natural human nature that I've noticed.
Especially if you're really enthusiastic, right?
People say, exactly. It's just right? Like, yeah, exactly. So I think for me, it's like it's definitely an ask, but it's also like if someone's automatic reaction is kind of to push away,
Right.
how can you kind of like overcome those barriers?
Or,
So you
or
do
do
have
you?
to
Or do you?
find-
Does that person even fit your culture?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been a thing where like if you're having to push too hard and that's all
Mhm.
you're doing constantly 24/7, then I think it's an issue. But from what I've noticed from recruiting and stuff like that, is people are always going to be skeptical at first, right? They're
Mhm.
always that's the first thing, doubt and all that stuff kicks in first. So it's about overcoming that doubt within their mind. And then from there, if they after their doubt has been overcome, they fully buy in or they fully necessarily not even buy in, but they fully are kind of committed, then it's someone that you can pursue. And then you're going to have the other type of person that may necessarily never be able to fully commit because they're just always in doubt.
Right.
And
Right.
that person may not necessarily be the greatest fit. And I think you kind of figure that out as you kind of go through the process. Because I feel like for us, like recruitment has never been like, oh, we have one conversation and boom, this person's hired. It's always been like 3, 4, maybe 5 conversations before we get something tangible going.
Right. Right. So yeah, obviously you're making sure they're at least a pretty good prospect for that fit. Now you said something really interesting. Your TED Talk, and we're going to put a link to that too. I think people would enjoy watching that. You know, that theme of if not now, when, right?
Hmm.
Can you talk a little bit more about that and how you arrived at? And what was really interesting is that survey you had done, right, where you showed the obstacles below 25, below age 25, and above age 25. And yeah, you may be right. Age 25 might be the magic number. I don't know. I'm so old now I can't remember, but that might be.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, kind of talking about the TED Talk. So, when I first got started at 17, and I kind of had the idea of becoming an entrepreneur, my friends, my family, pretty much all the influence around me told me, no, don't go be an entrepreneur. You're too young. It's too early. Go to college first. And they told me like a plethora of things, and I was always very, very impatient. And I mean, growing up and through my childhood, that impatience got me in a lot of trouble. But for the first time, this so-called impatience of mine actually paid off because I totally disregarded what everyone said, and I was like, forget it. I'm still going to be an entrepreneur.
Isn't that funny?
And
The worst traits we have when we're younger, and you know, you're still going to have a lot of life in front of you. So I'm not damning you this yet, but so many times that the things that got us in trouble when we were younger, really our best assets as we get older.
yeah, absolutely, right. So it was kind of one of those things. So I just jumped into entrepreneurship anyways, and as I kind of went through the journey over like the next 3, 4 years, I really became curious about something because like I came across so many people that would like ask me all the time like, oh, why'd you start so young, or how'd you do it? I'm so scared to pursue my dreams, like I'm trying to wait, and blah blah blah. And so I became extremely extremely passionate and curious about the topic of like, first of all, does everyone have dreams, and if so, what are their dreams, and lastly, why are they not pursuing it right now? And like, when are they trying to pursue it? So I just went out and I started just talking to people and surveying people, and I found out that pretty much everyone has a dream, right? And the next thing I found out was that very, very few people actually pursue their dreams. And so I wanted to know why they're not pursuing their dreams. So I just decided to categorize them by different age groups, kind of like the younger audience, what I call the so-called younger audience versus the so-called older audience. And yeah, and then I don't want to spoil the TED Talk, but that's pretty much I took all this data and all the survey results, and I put it together in a presentation, and I think it was a very interesting discovery I came across.
No, that was really interesting because it's funny sometimes when I share my resume, and I did have a lot of adventures that I'm really happy for. Some that probably I wouldn't do over again for sure, but I remember people saying, geez, you must have been so ambitious. And I said, no. And this is what puzzles me sometimes with people today, not just young people, but like you said, why aren't you pursuing your dreams? So it wasn't that I had, any courage or confidence. I just figured, what the hell, if I mess up, I've got plenty of time to recover, right? I wasn't thinking about it. And that, that maybe that's part of it, right? People fear losing, but what do you have to lose when you're just starting out?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think the biggest thing that I've kind of learned about entrepreneurship is like no matter what you do, you're gonna fail at some point, and you just kind of have to own it and embrace it. And I think like people are worried about like being defined as a failure or failing in general. And what I've learned is that if on Monday, for example, I get knocked down and I fail at 9 a.m., I've got 2 options. I can get back up, learn my lessons from that experience, and go back at it again. And at that point, failure just became an event. It's just something that happened at 9 a.m., no big deal.
Right.
And then I have the second option. I get knocked down, I get extremely frustrated, and I just give up. And at that point, the last thing I'm doing in that domain or space is failing. So I'm allowing failure to define me. And the biggest thing that I've kind of learned through my journey is that you're going to fail a bunch. You're going to face a lot of challenges, make a lot of mistakes, and go through tons of obstacles. But in business and entrepreneurship especially, you only have to be right once. And so there's been people like Thomas Edison and so many others before us that have failed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times, but they're massively famous and they changed the world just because they were right one time.
No,
we don't talk about the times. Yeah,
with very few exceptions. The best successes in entrepreneurship and business, and anywhere else too. You look at that and you start listening to those people, and there are a lot of failures, right? And if not professionally, certainly personally. So no, I think that you quoted, you like that Wayne Gretzky quote, right? We say it too. You just said something very interesting, because in martial arts, the old saying we had was knock down 7 times, get up 8, right? That's certainly something I learned from fighting. Yeah, you either stay down and take the count, or you get back into it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and my favorite quote, the Wayne Gretzky quote, I love it. It's like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. No, exactly. And I think that's pretty much one of my favorite things, because I think I live by that motto.
Yeah, ours is, you can steal this one too. Is been saying for a long time, nobody ever won a fight from ringside. It's just the way it goes. So yeah, no. So that's interesting. Getting started now. Now let's go to over 25. Let's go over the horizon there, right? Because a lot of people now, and it's a lot of folks that I've encountered over the last few years have been downsized or aged out of corporations, and I call these folks entrepreneurs of desperation, right? And that's where my skepticism comes from, with online marketing programs, and particularly with I have an issue with MLM programs and direct sales programs. And I say, if you can't demonstrate to me that someone can make money on the retail end, it's not a business in my eyes. If you have to, the only way you're making money is by conning other people into selling stuff that you can't sell. That's not a business. But there's a growing need. I mean, these people are not finding jobs. Is this something that you have a solution for? Can folks, even my age, will say, learn from your course and make a living for themselves, not have to sit around worrying about the next several years?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's like one of the base principles that I'm a strong believer of. And that's pretty much kind of goes down to my academy, and that's kind of what we're focused on there is there's a lot of ways, obviously, in this world to make money. And when you're kind of unemployed or in a tough situation, it can sometimes feel very, very troublesome to try and figure out how to make money and do that kind of stuff. And for me, I've always known how to make money online. That's just been my thing. Start an online business and figure things out, and it's worked very well for me. And I truly believe it's something that can definitely be learned by other people in terms of like starting different business models online and stuff like that. And if that's something that you're passionate about, then absolutely. But I don't think an online business is for everyone, right? Because with an online business, there's a lot of discipline that goes into it. Like when I first started out, I was working from home. So that means there's a lot of distractions and a lot of things that go into working from home. Like I make my own schedule. I choose when I should work, when I shouldn't work. And you need to be focused and disciplined. You have to tune out all the other exterior stuff. But some people just can't do that.
So many in this business say it's not really any work, and you're just going to make money while you sleep. I mean, obviously you're saying something different. It is hard work, right? It is.
100%. Yeah. If someone tells you that you can just wake up tomorrow morning, start an online business, and you're going to be making money while you sleep, and everything is great, that's the biggest lie and the biggest myth out there, right? And I'm going to be the first person to tell you that. Is it possible to make money while you sleep? Yes. Are you going to be able to do it overnight? Absolutely not. You got to spend months, if not a year or more, to put in a lot of work to build the foundation, to build the business, and to grow it, and to go through the process of creating this company and this business before you ever get to that point. And I think mainstream media and a lot of marketers and stuff like that, the biggest issue I have with them is that they only focus on the destination. Yeah, sure, this guy's got a Lamborghini, he's got a beachfront mansion, and he's traveling the world, and that's great. But why are we only focused on that? What happened behind the scenes that led up to that point? And that's what people don't realize. And the biggest thing, like in my academy and stuff like that, is we don't lie about that. We don't sell people on this fake majestic life that they think they're going to get right off the bat. I tell people, if you're not ready to work hard and you're not ready to apply these skills, don't take my academy. You're not the right fit for it. It takes a lot of action, takes a lot of grit, and it takes a lot of perseverance to succeed. So 100%. It's possible to start an online business. Definitely you can be successful, but don't think it's going to be easy, because if it was easy, everyone would be doing it.
No, for sure. That's what discourages me when I hear those things. And I'm not going to mention the name, because the last time I did, it's not that I'm afraid to, but I got crushed on my inbox and social media, and I just don't want to put up with it this week. But there's one very, very famous internet marketer makes those same promises, and you're right, exactly right. He always does his videos in front of some fancy car or in front of this big mansion, and it was clearly documented. The guy didn't own any of that stuff. He was renting it for the videos, and that's really discouraging.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I think unfortunately, there's a lot of bad, negative stuff going on in this marketplace, which I understand why it's so difficult for like a consumer or someone that's looking to do this to start it. But my biggest thing that I like to tell people is, look, you're buying something from somebody. Don't worry about what it is that you're buying initially. Focus on who you're buying it from. And I think that's the best way to really qualify whether it's a good fit or not. Like if you do enough research and do enough like background check and historical checks and all that kind of stuff, you'll really figure out who's authentic and who's not out there in the marketplace. And I think it just talks for itself.
But Jeet, I got to tell you, you've opened up my mind a bit, and probably could talk to you for another hour. We like to keep this to about 30 minutes because lunch friendly and so on. But before we leave for this call, and I'd love to have you back again because it sounds like there's a lot more we need to talk about. But one of the most important things is like, let's go back to your journey, your trip, right? And like I said, that story, it was just ironic that today, well, maybe not ironic is the right word, just striking today that I came across that story about, like I said, that 30-year-old guy his parents had to sue him to get him out of the house. He still doesn't want to leave. He's appealing the case. It's crazy. And, we hear so many stories about young people who just really feel overwhelmed, like they really can't do much for themselves to get out and be successful. So how are you, personally, how did you really buck the trend in your own mind? And, is there a couple of pieces of encouragement you could share for other young leaders so they, they'll get off the couch or out of their parents' basement like these guys? Maybe you should coach this guy. I don't know. He might be hopeless.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing for me was that I always had the drive and the desire to be great. And it was like, I didn't never, like from a young age, I never knew what it was that I wanted to be great at necessarily, but I always had that feeling that no matter what I do, I'm going to be the best at it, or I want to be the best at it. That's the mindset that I kind of always went in with. So I've always had that hunger, and I've always felt compelled to do like great things. And I think that's what really pushed me at the age of 17, after I got a little experience and a little taste of the working world, to just dive in and never look back. And I think that's even still my motivation today. I want to leave a legacy that outlives me, something that like I create that impacts not only millions of people, but lives out past me and my lifetime and all that kind of stuff. And I know you brought up how like, oh, can I coach that guy? And I think one of the things that I am not necessarily able to like coach or teach, and I don't know if anyone can, is really motivation, right? I think that's what comes from within. If you give me a motivated individual next to me, I can make magic happen with them, right? But if someone just doesn't have the drive, they're not going to wake up the next morning after I teach them everything and be ready to go out there and go earn their own way and all that stuff. I can't help them. There's just absolutely nothing I can do. I can't teach drive. I can't teach motivation. I can't teach hard work. I could teach you what to spend your time on and what to pay attention to and what you should focus on. But I cannot teach you that motivation and that inspiration. That needs to really come from within, or family or something. Some other greater power has got to guide that inspiration and motivation.
It sounds like we're singing in harmony. There it is. Listen, stick around for just a second after the show. I just want to say a quick thank you. And Eddie, before we wrap this up, though, please tell people how you'd like them to get in touch with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So the best way to get in touch with me is my personal website, which is called jeetbanerjee.com, which is spelled JeetBanerjee.com. I've got my social media profiles, my blog, my projects, and my email address on there, so people can get in touch with me or learn more about me right there.
And watch for the TED Talk. Like I said, we'll put the links that I think you're going to find inspirational. So, hey, thanks you so much. Like I said, stick around for just a second afterwards, and we'll finish up. And thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me on here.
No worries. Thank you.
Keynotes, workshops, retreats, webinars, and ongoing training. Each program customized to your unique needs, interests, goals, and budget. Inspire, empower, and guide people to their very best. Learn more about Jim Bouchard and the Sensei Leader at thesenseileader.com.